the third time in his career and the second time while driving for RFK, Preece Buescher goes to victory lane at Richmond. I'd love to tell you how he did it with strategy and a great pit call, but it really just seemed like a very good race car and 7 solid pit stops. Is it really that straightforward?
Pretty much. The only hiccup they had in the weekend, qualified back in the mid-20s, but recovered from that and drove themselves forward to a win.
Well, we always show you races that go up and down. Let's show you what a smooth race looks like when we go to the line graph. So you mentioned it. He starts outside the top 20, top 25 actually, gets inside the top 20 by the end of stage 1, a great pit stop, and continues to climb really the whole way. I would love to circle a moment or a spot on this graph that makes a difference, but I think the easiest thing is to say, look at this steady, long, all-day climb all the way to the point. It was really just a blue-collar effort.
Everybody did it. When he came to pit road, the pit crew got him 2 or 3 spots. When they got back on the racetrack, Preece went and got 2 or 3 spots. They worked their way forward and put themselves in position. Really well-executed race.
It was a well-executed race, but it was not simple and straightforward. Leading late, we see it all the time, that caution comes out. Well, at Richmond, you know it's going to be a 4-tire pit stop and then a restart, but some of the effort that Buescher put in that final stage paid off for his pit crew. Explain.
Yeah, if you looked at it, he had a 6.5-second lead on Denny Hamlin in second, and he had worked his way through lap traffic. He was continuing to put cars a lap down, working his way forward, got to the point he was right behind the 9 of Chase Elliott, but the 2 of them continued to work forward and kept a separation, and that inevitably, when the caution flew, that put him in a position where he had separation coming to pit road.
So let's go through the rules. We don't talk a lot about the rules coming to pit road under yellow, but there are rules, and it starts with the leader. When you come to pit road, you have to give the commitment line. We talk about that a lot, but you also can't pass the pace car. That's considered pulling up the pit for the leader, but the term pulling up the pit, it applies to everyone. So we're on board with Denny Hamlin right here down the backstretch. Look ahead. This car way up here, that's Preece Buescher. That's the gap you talked about. So now what is Hamlin allowed to or not allowed to do at this point?
He's sitting here 7 lap cars between him and Preece Buescher, and he has to, as you see, he maintains his position to William Byron here. He can't pull up to pit until he makes a commitment to pit road.
I mean, look at the gap. I mean, that's basically like pitting from the 8th position and think you're gonna beat the leader off pit road. It's not gonna happen. But I also think it's important to know that Scott Graves realizes this. He communicates it to the pit crew and says, guys, just a solid stop.
Yeah, just need to get all 4 tires tight. Just put a normal, regular stop together. Don't need a hero stop here, and we're gonna roll off pit road first.
It was a great day for Preece Buescher, but I'd be lying if I didn't say my heart ached a little for Brad Keselowski. He had control of the race. I thought this was going to be his day, but then he had an issue, a rare mistake out of the veteran on a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, coming to pit road here, green flag stop, just committed to trying to get to his lights, to his pit road speed. He forgets where his pit stall is and has to make a late commitment to it, leaving the rear of the car hung out of the pit box.
Yeah, the rear of the car out of the pit box, the pit crew a mile to go. You see how far the left rear is from the wall. So if you just stop right here and take a look, let's talk about rules again. Rules, we love rules. Right front tire, left rear tire. They're required to be in the pit stall. The front of the car, the actual fascia front bumper, cannot be over the front line. But that right rear tire, the driver owns it. This is a perfectly legal pit stop, although funny looking.
Yes, the right rear can hang out. If you had to drive around a car in the pit box behind you, they give you that's legal for that to sit out. It just slows the stop down because the rear changer has to run all the way around the car to get there, and the gas man has to make so many steps. It makes for a slower pit stop. I think this was about a 3-second penalty.
Well, a great day for RFK and a great day for Ford in general. Stewart-Haas Racing, all 4 cars in the top 11, 3 of them inside the top 10. Hadn't been done by the organization since 2020, but I do want to point this out. In 2020, they did it 11 times. This has been a tough transition to the next gen car.
Yeah, they had a great handle on what the Gen 6 car was, and the aerodynamic pieces they could do, the geometry stuff, they had that in a box that they were very successful with. This new car, being kind of common, has become a challenge for them, and it's been a hole for them to dig out of.
You and I have both gone through these valleys before in our career. They are very, very tough, and I think that's why everyone was excited to see this improvement. But I think when they look back, 2 of the cars, specifically the 41 of Ryan Preece and the 10 of Eric Almirola, might actually think this is the trophy that got away. They were crazy fast, but both had issues. It started with the 41 sliding through his pit box. Let's break it down.
Yeah, end of stage 1. Let's go to the Google overhead of what this pit road entry looks like, because Steve, you've drawn on this a little bit. The pit wall here sticks out fairly far in relative position to where that pit box is that the 41 pitted in, the last pit stall. And it creates an opportunity. Normally a car staggers left and slows down to get to their box. Pit road's pretty narrow at this point. That wall's stuck out. The 41 really can't commit left before he starts slowing down.
So as you mentioned it, now we're committed to pit road. We're going to stack up a little bit of the timeline. But as the 41 starts to look left, boom, right there. It doesn't look like much, but he hits him just hard enough that it shoves the 41 into the pit box, leaves tire tracks actually. In hindsight, we should be very, very thankful this wasn't more severe.
Yeah, you see him kind of lock up. There's skid marks all the way into it. They had to back up. Lost almost double-digit spots out of this, but they had a recovery from there.
Yeah, easily the car could have got backwards. They didn't service the car out of the box, so it could have been worse. So let's take a look at their line, right? The moment we're talking about is very early in the race. It's right here, basically. It's right here at the end of stage 1, right there, 2 pit stops, right? But the difference is, if you look at the 24, he kind of stays back there all the rest of the day, versus the 41 with that speed we talked about. He can recover. Now, it doesn't get him all the way to first, but that line is absolutely trending up.
Yeah, definitely trending up, and they had a great recovery from an issue on pit road. And it's something that they've been looking to build on successes like this, because there's been times they've been put in that hole and not recovered out of it. They had a good recovery here to get themselves back to a top 5 finish.
Yeah, you mentioned those times. Martinsville comes to mind. I thought he had a good car there, got behind, could never overcome it. Well, another driver who didn't surprise me that he ran well at Richmond, Eric Almirola's numbers there are very good. He made a mistake, and it was here under green flag pit stops. You can't hit the orange box. The rule is 4 under the orange box. Right here, clearly, right side tires over the orange box for the 10, which forced to do a pass-through under green.
Yeah, this was the first green flag cycle of stage 2. He's in a good position, was up there competing where you knew he was going to be one of the people, but had to do a pass-through. Put himself in a 17 to 18 second penalty. He recovered to 18 seconds behind the leader by the end of the stage. A really good drive forward. What could have happened if he didn't run over the box? Might have won the stage.
Well, we've talked a lot about fast cars and a few mistakes, but you can't go to Richmond without talking about strategy. So let's start with the obvious. Only 3 cautions, 2 stage breaks and a caution at the end. Are you surprised to see that at a short track, specifically Richmond?
Really, this is what we've seen out of Richmond the last few races we've had here, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact it's a low grip surface. As it gets to be lower grip, when you do slide the car a little bit, it's not sliding off that knife edge of having all the grip. So not surprising to me to see this go green, but you know, there's some strategy calls. It's gotten to the point where most everybody sees this is you take the second stage, you take the third stage, you double stop those, as we talked about Eric Almirola in the last piece. There were a couple cars that did it on one stop.
Well, let's talk about that. Stage 2, stage 3, 1 stop versus 2. Listen, it's no different than a road trip. They can make it on 1 stop. They only got to come down pit road 1 time for gas and tires. But tires slow down so much that they decide to come for 2 sets of tires, breaking it up into thirds. Let's talk about the cars that attempted to pit only once. So right here, this is the end of stage. This is the end of stage. In the middle, in between, what do you see? You see a singular pit stop for both Martin Truex Jr. and the 34 car. Now the difference is, here's the pit stop. Here, when they come back to the top, what is that? That's the rest of the field pitting. They stay out. This is where the 34 and the 19 split.
Yeah, definitely did. And it has to do with, I think the 19 car had better pace on a longer run, and Martin and James handled it better. The 34, I think, pitting from what, 13th, 12th, 11th, 13th, someplace in there, they had a lot more to lose. James Small, they were back there in the mid-20s. They committed to doing this. They had a lot of potential to gain and not a lot to lose. And they maintained it there, got themselves to the top 10 for the stage 2.
Risk versus reward. That is basically what green flag pit cycle is all about. And this is no better example of it. The 19, nothing to lose. I'll be honest, I didn't love the call from the 34. I feel like they were okay. You mentioned it, inside the top 15. The other cars around the bubble, other than Bubba Wallace, they were all having poor days. Allmendinger was in the back. Suarez was in the back. I love Travis Peterson's approach. I love the aggression, but I have been guilty of it. If I find success with aggression, I stick with it. I think this would have been one that perhaps just blending with everybody else and pitting twice would have been a better call.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I feel like once you got yourself, you're in the top 15, you're in a position. If you come out with a solid top 15 day, you're probably not losing points to the cutoff line.
All right, well, let's take a look. Chris Buescher, checkered flag. That makes everybody feel better. He's locked into the playoffs. Kevin Harvick at plus 182, Keselowski at plus 151. I'm willing to say these guys are basically guaranteed in unless the wheels completely come off. Let's take a closer look, though, at the bubble. Specifically, Keselowski, Wallace, McDowell, and the cars below. As I mentioned, Keselowski good, Wallace much better, McDowell 18 above.
Yeah, solid day for Bubba. They put together a race here, led at times, put together stage points, built themselves a cushion. Although they didn't end up in the top 10 there, I think they put together the day they needed to continue to put themselves in the playoff.
They did, and we talked about this a week ago. Everybody's going to look at the road courses as an issue for Bubba, and I wanted Bubba to take command. I wanted to see the superstar say, I belong in the playoffs, and that's what I saw. Not only did he drive to the front, that was impressive, but slow pit stop puts him behind, and the first guy on the radio to shake it off is Bubba Wallace, telling his team, don't worry, it's going to be okay. That was leadership. That is what I've been looking for out of Bubba Wallace. Currently 54 above. If he can repeat that at Michigan, he could take a lot of pressure off the road courses.
Yeah, he can. And really, I feel like he's making the moves he needs to be a playoff contender. As for the guys below that, you know, I don't know where the cutoff line is going to be. You've got Michael McDowell there at 16th, but we've got races. I think we could have a winner that falls outside of this playoff. So I don't know that he's comfortable, and you've got some really good cars coming after him.
Really good cars. You can't say that without saying Chase Elliott. Come on, really good guys, a champion, minus 40. A week ago, we thought it was a must-win. Have you changed your mind?
No, but I do like what I've seen in the evolution here. They scored stage points for the first time in quite a while. Because in stage one, I think they were 4th or 5th there. Got some stage points. They got a decent finish, I think 13th, and that's moved them up to where they're 40 back. But they're 40 back with 4 races to go. I don't see a points situation. I still think they need to win.
Don't sleep on Ty Gibbs. The rookie driver continues to impress, continues to be consistent, marching up that leaderboard. And I believe, is it fair to say, he is maybe the only driver on here that doesn't feel any pressure?
Oh, he's a rookie and not expected to. So he's working with the house money here. So I think he's in a great spot. I think he and Chris Gale are continuing to understand this car and work their way forward. They are showing more and more speed and more execution as they get close to the playoffs. It'll be fun to watch what happens to the next one.
4 races to go until the playoffs are set. Next up, the fastest 2-mile track of the circuit, Michigan Speedway.